If you want to check out what my top 5 picks are for Natasha Denona Eyeshadow Palettes, then please keep on watching. Hello my friends, thank you so much for clicking if it's your first time here. And if you are returning, well, thank you so much for visiting. Kinky Sweat stands for my kinky hair and sweat life. I am a fitness professional who loves everything movement and beauty. If you want to check out what I do between the makeups, you can head over to my Instagram and check out my daily movement musings. As a quick profile, I am 34 years old. I have around normal to oily skin type currently now in this summer season. Quick disclaimer, I don't have all of her palettes, unfortunately. So this is my top 5 choosings, if you will, from the palettes that I already own, that I feel that I use the most frequently and that I get the most excited about. First one up we have, which I consider very controversial, the Safari All Matte palette. I think there was a bad batch that went around, so some people hated it, some people loved it. It was like another subculture moment. I appreciate this palette because yes, it is all matte. I consider this a supplementary palette. If you have a lot of shimmers, a lot of metallics in other palettes in your collection in general as singles, then you can heavily rely on this palette to judge those metallics and shimmers, and it just comes in a wide range of shades. You have beautiful beige and pink tones, and then you have these warm orangey peachy tones coupled with this, like, I don't even know how to classify this. It's like a reddish magenta, and then you have your browns and this bright orange red, and you have the olives and your turquoise colors. So you can do a lot with this palette. And again, I know it's all matte, and that might lead you to dip out if you want a shimmer on your lid, but I've created beautiful all matte looks using the Safari palette. And Natasha Denona's formula for her mattes is a creamy matte formula, not the cream to matte. That's another formula that we'll touch on in another palette. They don't take a lot of zhuzhing to blend, and I think that's very different from, like, let's say a Viseart eyeshadow. The more you blend, the better it gets, whereas this, you have to just do very little work and they practically blend themselves, because I do feel if you overblend that it will start to disperse and get a little separated. So with your favorite blending brush, just pat down and lightly swirl and you'll be good to go. And especially these shades in particular, the Fata Morgana, the Rhino shades, so the deep teal matte, the olive mattes, definitely be careful with in how much you blend. MICHI and these orangey purple brown shades here. And I find this color story to be exceptional. Again, definitely serves as more of a supplementary palette, but I think the color selection is incredibly vast and you can do so much with this palette in conjunction with your other eyeshadows in your collection. I'm sorry I didn't mention this before I started my list. Natasha Denona palettes are $129. They are very expensive, and I'm not sure if you watch Nappy Headed Jojoba. Hi T! She brought up a good point in one of her videos where now in the consumer space, $129 is easily acceptable, and it's like for eyeshadow. And I think it all depends on what you prioritize financially. People wouldn't bat an eye spending $129 on eyeshadow. They wouldn't bat an eye spending $129 on one main course. And there are several opportunities in different sectors of life to overly spend money on said item or said service. I don't go out a lot. I don't do a lot of manicures or pedicures. I don't go on fancy dinners. I don't go to the club. I don't get fancy cocktails. Any disposable income that I have to spend on fun things, I choose to spend it on makeup. And that is a decision you have to make. And again, that is a judgment call for you. If you feel that spending that amount of money on eyeshadow is outrageous, doesn't make any sense, then yes, Natasha Denona is not for you. But if you're fine with that and you feel that her formula is well worth the cost, I hope though going forward, as you'll see, that she does downsize these palettes, because this is quite a lot of product for one person. Perhaps more appropriate for a makeup artist that is constantly working, traveling, and they do have a need to have a wide range of colors in very big pans. Nonetheless, you get a lot of product per pan, and her pans are magnetic. This style palette in particular has the pinholes. Some of them have the foam frame. So depending on the style palette will determine how you're going to get these pans out. But for this one, you just need a needle or something to pop the pans, and you could customize your own Natasha Denona palette or pair these with other shadows from other brands and just have your own thing going on. I definitely had to include Safari in my top 5 because this is one of the Natasha Denona palettes that I reach for the most and definitely find it useful in my collection, so I had to include it on this list. We got another 15 panner coming at ya. Biba Barbecue. This is your neutral warm dream. You have actually a wide range of textures here. You have the traditional creamy matte formula, but then you have the cream to matte formula. For instance, Rayon takes on this formula and it is a little less impactful initially, and the purpose of that is that you have a shade that you can build slowly, have control over it, and it not get all over, and it has more of a skin-like finish than her traditional creamy matte formulas. A traditional creamy matte will be, for instance, Pacha, which is a little more powder feeling, so you see it packs more punch than Rayon, but Rayon will allow for you to just have a little more confidence in blending that shadow out without getting it too intense, for instance like Pacha could on the first application. And then you have her traditional metallic shades, which is definitely one of my favorites. I mean, this is just... I'm sorry I didn't swatch Safari. I don't know why I didn't do that. Hold on. Why am I swatching Biba and I didn't swatch anything from Safari? I just want to quickly show you Masai. You see what I mean? Desert Date. Oh my god. Amhara. Definitely my favorite shade in this palette. Like that trio right there, I can't. Okay, back to Biba. If you're not into color and you just need your basics all in one palette, Biba gives it to you. You have your black, you have your grays too, so you got a nice cool tone row here to cater to your cool desires. But then, and I would say the majority of this palette is warm, and I think when people read neutral, they were thinking more neutral in tone, whereas maybe Natasha was just thinking more neutral in terms of role, that these could go with anything. And a lot of these appear the same. For instance, Prairie appears kind of like Freckle and Buff appears kind of like Tone. I really don't mind that. I just like to have an array of choices I can pull from. I could apply any of these on their own. I can combine them to enhance the saturation. I could add depth. I could add sparkle. This is mostly matte and creamy to matte. The only metallics you have are Rustic, Monroe, and Shine, which is enough for me when I'm presented with these many shades, even in the matte formulas. But you can't go wrong with this, man. I mean, this provides beautiful, beautiful looks. I mean, are you kidding me? Prairie is just, oh, this tone is outrageous. I love that. I know it doesn't look very impressive, but when you buff this into your lid, you're not even ready. Freckle, I think, is amazing. Like, you need that warm beige in your life. You need it. Huge fan of this palette. Definitely had to have it on my list. Again, I think it's important to be on this list just for its versatility, its varying textures in the palette, the fact that the tones are easy to work with, easy to combine. You could also consider that a supplementary palette. If you have other neutral shades, whether they're matte or metallic, you can use that palette to zhuzh those shades up or just to set it up however you want to conduct it. I love Biba. I will be okay if I just had Biba for a week. I will make different looks happen. I have videos for each of these palettes I'm about to present, by the way, in addition to different multi-look videos. So if you're like, why they're your favorites, where are the looks? Ooh, I got the looks for you. Okay. Up next has to be definitely one of my faves. Not my fave, but it's one of my faves. And that is no other than the Natasha Denona Sunrise palette. I particularly love this size. If she proceeded to make the rest of her palettes this size, I think she would just sell more. This is $129. This is $65. $65 for 15 shades. Yes, the pans are smaller, but who's gonna use all this eyeshadow on themselves at once in a short amount of time? Nobody. But if you have smaller pans and still have 15 shadows for $65, that's a great price point. For Natasha Denona, please. So I do hope she goes forward and creates palettes in this size and with this price point. Sunrise I like better than Sunset. I think Sunset is a lot of gold, orange, and bronze, which are beautiful tones. Absolutely. What I find very special about this color arrangement is the inclusion of the duochrome purples, the marigold yellows and the warm oranges, the magentas, and everything in between, the peachy tones and the beige tones. This is so beautifully varied and you could just do so much with this. But again, I love color. I love creating colorful eye looks. At first glance, for someone who's not really into these tones, it could be a little intimidating. And I will take this moment to talk about the coral palette that was newly released. Disclaimer, Beautylish did send this to me upon my request. They were very kind in asking if I had my eye on any new releases, and I asked them to send me the coral palette. I mistakenly forgot to mention this in the coral palette review. I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking about her other bigger palettes, but not the Sunrise palette. This is definitely an edited version of Sunrise. Absolutely. If you put them together, you can see that these shades pretty much are the same shades here, but very edited. One of her 5-pan full-size palettes retails for $48. That is a lot more than if you were to multiply this by 15. You get more product here for less. Here's the thing though, a lot of people, and I'm not speaking for them, but this is just an assumption, who are intimidated by 15 shadows, despite the fact that it's $65, might feel a lot better with this palette. Even though it's $48 and more expensive, they feel they could tackle this better and just use it more often because it's just 5 shades instead of 15. Someone mentioned that this matte here, although very closely related to Morgan, they felt that Morgan applied orange on their skin tone, but Lola applied perfectly pink on their skin tone. So those small variances that again might not look distinctly different when on the lid. A look from this palette might not look distinctly different from this palette if I use some of these shades. To some people, the slight variations in undertone are enough for them to get a different palette than the one they might already own. Some people already own Sunrise and they don't care. They still want the coral palette. But again, this still is my favorite because I just love these shades. Like, I just love Glory. Glory, you can't get enough of magenta. Oh my god. Citrine is beautifully warm yellow and I just love it with the more orangey mattes here. This is Jasper. Citrine and Jasper to die for. It just makes the most beautiful gradient. And then you have your purple duochrome. Aster is so beautiful with any of these shades. But then you have your bronzy shades to hold you down if you want to go more neutral. So you have that option. And then you got freaking Poppy, which is this beautifully rich metallic red. I mean, are you kidding me? So many options, but again, because I'm this skin tone and I appreciate these shades, I love this palette. For someone else, maybe it's just a little too much, a little too bold, not ideal for every day. But because again, I'm in fitness, so I could pretty much wear anything within reason. I could even wear false lashes if I wanted to, but I could wear any of these colors, any combination, teach a class, and no one will bat an eye. I mean, especially with me, because they're so used to seeing me with makeup on every day that they actually rather love my eye looks and they think it very pretty. So having these shades available to do really nice eye looks with is just ideal for my life situation. Definitely one of the most highly anticipated palettes for me from Natasha Denona. Like, this is just, I freaking love Sunrise. I can't say it enough. Now we're taking a break from the bigger palettes. My next favorite is her mini nude. This little thing, first of all, 25 bucks. Not too bad. She has other smaller palettes, but I feel this is the most successful out of the others. She has a mini Tropic, a mini Lila, a mini Star, a mini Sunset. I think this is the best one out of the bunch. These shades, not outrageously different from what we've seen already, but to travel with and just to have these shades available to you, I love so loud. I love this dark brown shade. I love how it blends, how it deepens the eye, but it still is like warm brown. This shade here is like a duochrome situation, bronzy situation. Look at that shine. And then you got this color to hold you down for brow highlight, inner corner highlight, or just a nice bright lid. Or you have this bronze to keep it simple. You know what I mean? You can't go wrong with this mini. The quality is very much consistent with the quality I encounter in her bigger palettes, where I think people were disappointed about the other smaller minis. I feel some of them weren't consistent with the formula we're so very familiar with in bigger Natasha Denona palettes, even her 5-pan ones. This one I feel is very consistent across the board. All the shadows in here perform immaculately. The mattes are beautiful. The metallics in here to die for. You can't go wrong with the warm bronzy eye. I mean, that is always a go-to eye look for anyone. I would say it's a shame that this is not super deep, so if you are a deeper skin tone, this probably won't show up on you as a transition shade, maybe as a light beige highlight matte, but this I feel has nice richness to it that will show up at least as a transition shade if you have to dip out for more intensity, but you can at least use the shade for a daily smoky eye. And the bronze metallics are just gonna look beautiful, shiny, creamy, and they have impact. You can't go wrong. And now I present to you my favorite Natasha Denona palette. I have it on my eyes. I'm sure you already figured it out. You know, every time I use Lila, I'm always reminded how brilliantly this shadow palette is designed. When you look at the tones in here, this is purple. This is purple. It's not one type of purple. You have different variations of purple. You got your wine purple, your magenta type of purple, your truer royal type of purple, your lavender type of purple, your duochrome type of purple, your reddish type of purple, all the purple. And then you have these beautiful mattes that initially when you see them, you think, how? Listen, I think it's Nude Vino, I believe. I keep forgetting. Yes, Nude Vino across my crease. But I have a clip here applying this magenta here with my finger. This houses one of my most favorite, if not my absolute favorite, Natasha Denona eyeshadow formula. It is her metallics. Her metallics blend themselves. I applied this freaking shade with my finger and it just dispersed with the most ease. I can't believe it. And then I applied this purple on my outer corner. The ease is just mind-blowing to me. If you don't want to use your finger, you could blend these metallics out. You don't need a mat to blend them out. You could apply it on your lid, zhuzh it through the crease, lower lash line, and you're done. So you know what that means. You basically have an eye look because you could do a look with that, with no other shadow. You just blend these out and that color will just be on your lid and you're done. You could combine it with any of these shades in here. But again, back to the mattes. These tones are really special. Let me use my other hand because clearly that one's occupied. These tones are very unique. And until you combine the mattes with the different shades in here, you will realize how important they are and how much this tone matters in terms of highlighting the different metallics in here. So that would just pair beautifully, because the tone is just so perfect for that metallic. What's the other one? This one looks a little gray. I know. What's that about? What are we gonna do with that? Well, I don't know. Maybe you could go into a more cooler purple and pair it with that matte. You see what I mean? You see what I mean? She thought this through so beautifully well. Like, look at that. That's an eye look right there. That's one eye look. That's another eye look. Can we talk about the duochrome of what? Look at that blue flip. Look, hold on. This shade. What in the name? What? You're like, I'm not impressed. When you apply, look at my lid. Look at my lid. This purple right here, I can't stand it. I absolutely can't stand it. It is so beautiful. If you don't want to go purple, then you go maybe more of the traditional, that's more like a pinky magenta. Like this is more purpley and this is more pink. But then you have your actual red in here, which is just outrageous. Look how beautifully that swatches. But then you want to go deep, so you have deeper purple to work with. That's gorgeous as well. I can't get enough. And then you get the golds, man. You get the orangey types of golds. So if you want to take a break from the purples, you go to the gold. Look at this freaking shade here. Oh my god, like what is that? I don't even know how to describe that. Oh my goodness. I hope she makes an extension of Lila in this size. I would die. That would be a must for me. The formula in Lila is outrageously good. You can't get a better, more easy eyeshadow application experience, especially with her metallics. Her metallics are so beautifully formulated that the ease of use just cannot be overlooked. The fact that you could apply these with a finger, and I know it's not as precise as a shader brush if you're doing close-up eye photography and you need that cut crease. I get it. But if you're not doing that type of thing, you just need to put it on your lid and it blend out by itself. And to get the right tone for the mattes, that I think is just admirable. Like these tones of mattes nailed it for me. You can combine these with any of the metallic shades in here, and I think that's probably one of the most standout qualities, characteristics about this palette. That despite it being exclusively kind of all purple, it is so sophisticated. You don't have to be afraid about applying these tones on your lids. I think this is in fact more user-friendly than Sunrise. Sunrise is bright, it's bold, it's in your face. This on first glance might be bold and in your face, but when you apply these on your lids and how they work together, you just get a nice different tone of a smoky eye that might not look crazy bold purple. You could apply this maybe on the inner third, lower third of your lash line to sneak it in. But then you have these other, I feel, more daily friendly tones that you could apply on your lid and apply on your crease with these mattes that will just make it a different eye story than your typical brown and neutral. If you wanted to take a break from the shades like in the Mini Nude, you can make it happen with the Lila palette. I really love Lila. Lila, until she comes out with something else. So far, from all the palettes that I have in my collection from Natasha Denona, Lila is my number one. And yes, it's probably because I love purples and I love how they look on my skin, how they look on my eyes. I have a lot of lid space, so yes, you're able to see the colors. That's just my experience, and that's why I love it the best out of all her palettes. I appreciate how a purple palette can touch on the different tones of her purple story, how so expansive it is, that it's not just royal purple. Like, purple can mean different things to many people. When you hear purple, you might think plum, you might think mauve, you might think magenta, you might think lavender. You could think a lot of different things, and I feel she took all those thoughts, all those possibilities into consideration when creating Lila. That is my all-time favorite Natasha Denona palette. I'm putting it here on the record. It is my favorite. And I used it today, and I was just quickly reminded as to how devastatingly gorgeous this palette is. So those are my top 5 friends. I'm sure you have yours, so let me know what your favorite Natasha Denona palettes are. I don't have Star, like I said. I don't have her 10-pan palette. I don't have a lot of her palettes, but from the ones that I purchased, these are the top 5s that if I were just left with, I would be cool with, that I use the most out of all her palettes in my collection, that I feel are the most stand out, the most impactful in terms of performance, in terms of color story. So definitely let me know what your favorites are, not only your top 5 favorites, but I know this is a hard question to answer, but your all-time favorite Natasha Denona palette. I would love to know. And that, my friends, is a wrap. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope this video helped, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And until then, I'll see you on here again with another review, tutorial, or top 5 list. Take care, and I'll see you again soon.